Howdy there, folks. Welcome into the reaction channel. It's a buy one, get one free here today in this one, folks. Two videos for me to react to. Both are in regards to my number one stock. The only stock I have more money in the public account than good old Tesla, my Tesla. And that is Meta, okay? So first video up here, this gentleman makes a point or two in regards to why Threads, which is the new very, very popular social media that just launched a couple days ago, is actually going to be bad for Meta, why it's going to hurt Meta, okay? And so I thought we'd react to that. I'd kind of give my perspective and opinion on that one there, because it's definitely a very different take than, I mean, at the end of the day, if you launch the biggest social that we've ever seen, like, you know, in terms of how fast the adoption is happening, like, usually it's going to be a pretty good thing for you, right? So interesting argument this gentleman makes, okay? Then I'm going to go ahead and react to this one. Threads is an easy extension for the Instagram model, and I want to hear what Mark Mahaney, an analyst on Meta stock, has to say in regards to this, kind of share my perspective and opinion. Now, in regards to user count, it looks like now up to 89 million users on Threads now at this point in time. So I would say likely 100 million plus by Sunday morning, very, very early Sunday morning. It should be 100 million plus easily. So yeah, we've never seen anything even close to take off this fast in history other than this reaction channel, which, by the way, folks, I just want to say thank you, okay? We just hit 30,000 subscribers on the channel, so I appreciate each and every one of you for being here. Thanks so much, folks. I do, greatly appreciate it. Glad you guys enjoy this channel, a reaction channel. It's something different, obviously, than my traditional normal videos on the main channel, and I'm just thrilled with how much it's obviously, kind of boomed and succeeded and whatnot. So thanks for being here, folks. Alrighty, let's get into this.
For a closer look at the broader impact of the Threads debut, Rachel Carton, she is social media consultant for companies like Kava and West Elm, and Alex Kantrowitz, big technology founder and CNBC contributor. Rachel, were you surprised? Because Threads is like the polar opposite of the metaverse, right? I mean, this is like text on a two-dimensional screen. It's something that it seems like Facebook, back when it was called that, was resisting doing for a long time when people were saying, why don't you? And now it's growing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised and I'm not surprised. I think that the timing is right. And I think that it was a fairly almost, I guess I would say, low lift sort of addition to Instagram, and sort of porting all of their users over there is, I think it's a smart idea, and I'm very, very curious to watch it closely.
Alex, I wonder if Mark Zuckerberg's attention...
Yeah, I'll say this, okay? It was absolutely a massively genius decision, okay? And obviously, Meta has to thank Elon Musk in regards to this, in my personal opinion, okay? Think about it like this, right? Musk obviously buys Twitter. Musk just being associated with anything is going to make it much cooler. That's just the bottom line with that, okay? So obviously he made the format of Twitter a lot cooler. Now, a lot of people got frustrated by some of the moves Elon Musk has made with Twitter, and a lot of, if you are anywhere on the internet, you read all this stuff. Elon Musk has ruined Twitter and all this stuff, okay? Some people think he's fixed Twitter. I don't know. I'm not going to make a debate either way, but the bottom line is people are pretty, one way or another. But the bottom line is Elon Musk being involved with something makes it cool. Now, a lot of people don't really want to use Twitter. They want what they feel is a better experience, something more updated than something that was created 20 years ago. And Threads obviously steps in just at the absolute perfect time. And it's just a very natural extension for them, and just, genius move, obviously, by Meta to go this route, in my personal opinion. But we'll hear the downside in just a moment, and the negative in regards to this.
Shifts away from some other things like the metaverse, which I know is a long-term play, but to this really interesting, somewhat strategic, but also tactical move, which is Threads. Because, I mean, historically, the guy loves growth. He's addicted to growth. And here's something that looks like it's growing both in numbers and in engagement off of Facebook, Meta's existing social graph. This is like old school Mark Zuckerberg stuff.
Absolutely. I think his focus is going to need to shift to this area, but maybe not all for good reasons. So let me just put this out there. What Threads is doing is it's building an algorithmic feed of social media content. What does that sound like? It sounds, okay, a little bit like Twitter, but a lot like Instagram. And when you view this in context of Meta's big war against TikTok, which is the battle of its life, this could, A, potentially distract some of its executives away from putting Instagram and Facebook front and center there, but also take some energy away from Instagram in terms of user focus. And once that happens, all of a sudden, Facebook's plan to take on TikTok looks very different. So I think this is an underappreciated risk in this fight.
All right,
where
well, let me push back on that,
are
though.
going to need.
Okay, so in terms of this, right? Okay, so everybody's attention at Meta all of a sudden gets diverted from Instagram and Instagram Reels and everything they've been accomplishing there on the fight versus TikTok. And let's say people are using Threads instead of Instagram. You could also say, well, Threads isn't monetized. It's not going to be monetized for at least 1 to, let's say, 4 years, depending upon when they want to start monetizing it. So if people are spending time on Threads versus Instagram, then essentially you're in a situation where, Meta's going to make less money for that, right? Because obviously if you spend an hour on Threads versus an hour on Instagram, like Meta's going to make a lot of money if you spend an hour on Instagram, right? They're going to make no money if you spend an hour on Threads. So I understand the debate, but at the end of the day, I think this is a different use case in terms of Threads. When you go on Threads, you're really trying to read things that people are writing, okay? Maybe you'll look at pictures or something like that, but that's a very different experience in Instagram. Go on your Explore page on Instagram, and it's going to be almost all Instagram Reels. It's almost all going to be video content. You're going to have some still pictures up there and things like that. You're not there to read the text, okay? That's the bottom line with that. So the experience is vastly different. So could it take some sort of attention away? Sure, but also Meta's a massive company. It has a ridiculous amount of employees there and managers and vice presidents and things like that. Like, they should be able to do more than one thing at a time, right? No different than any massive company can. Because Amazon is successful at this thing doesn't mean Amazon can't be successful at this thing, and Apple and Microsoft and all these companies. And so I just think that's something very important to mention there. And at the end of the day, okay, I still don't think people have wrapped their heads around this. Meta just basically started the next $100 billion plus platform overnight. The next $100 billion plus platform. When you break apart what Facebook's worth, what Instagram's worth, what WhatsApp's worth, okay? I mean, you're talking about several $100 billion for each of those, right? And by the way, Meta stock's significantly undervalued. Meta right now should be valued around, in my opinion, around $2 trillion to $2.5 trillion. Facebook, the platform by itself, is worth at least $1 trillion. Then you have Instagram, which I would put a valuation of at least $500 billion to maybe $750 billion on that. And then WhatsApp, you got to tack on at least several $100 billion for WhatsApp, right? And I think that number is going to grow substantially over the coming years. So here we are with Threads. That could easily be the next service that has 500 million users on it, 1 billion users on it, right? My gosh, like, there you go. There's your next $100 billion type platform, or your next several $100 billion type platform, depending upon how successful it will be over the next 5-10 years. Why not go ahead and take that opportunity? It's absolutely insane, and it would be insanity to have this sort of opportunity and be like, no, we don't want a piece of that. That's crazy.
Look this way.
I mean, there's plenty of investment that Meta can afford to shift around. Does it have to go away from TikTok competition? Couldn't it come from the metaverse? Couldn't you take like 30% of those resources and say, okay, maybe that's a few years out. Let's spend that money on making Threads robust and monetizing it that much sooner.
Threads isn't going to be some massive drag on the business, in my opinion. It's not like the metaverse where they're spending $1 billion plus a month on it, and losing $1 billion plus a month on the metaverse opportunity, right? Like, Threads should cost them very little, right? And I think they'll probably be able to start monetizing that in a substantial way within 12 to 24 months if they want to go that route. With how fast things are scaling here, I wouldn't be surprised if at all a year from now or 2 years from now, they're going to start monetizing that. And we know when Meta starts that monetization engine, very quickly it gets to profitability. So yeah, I mean, it's a big stretch to try to make out like this is some metaverse type thing that they're going to lose a fortune on this in the short term.
You could, but the other side of this is the product side. And that's what I'm trying to say, that Threads could eventually be an underappreciated competitor, not just to Twitter, but to Instagram. If this thing starts to take potential growth away from Instagram, potential growth away from Reels, potential growth away from every TikTok competitor that Facebook has, and ends up diluting the Instagram app, yeah, you could eventually have an issue where it doesn't matter how much resources you throw at the thing, you end up competing with yourself more than you're competing with others. That's a potential risk. No one's talking about that, and I think that's a very important thing that could end up hamstringing Meta as it tries to get this thing off the ground.
Rachel?
In all due respect, I don't know if this gentleman's used the Threads app yet. I'll be honest, just like hearing the way he's talking, I'm like, has he actually tried it and experienced it yet? Because I can tell you the use cases for Threads versus Instagram is massively different. For Instagram, you go on there specifically to look at photos and watch videos. And guess what else? Direct message your friends and people like that, okay? For Threads, if you're going on that, you're going to post your opinion or read other people's opinions or funny things that people write. Very similar to, obviously, Twitter, right? And so the use cases between Instagram and Threads is not really there at all, just to be quite frank, okay? So, yeah, that's just ridiculous in my personal opinion. Absolutely ridiculous.
What do you think? Is this classic Facebook Meta using its existing strength to leverage into another product, which is how they helped grow Instagram on the back of Facebook to begin with? Or is this a potential distraction? And are brands going to move from Instagram to Threads and spend new money there?
Look, I think it's going to be really interesting. We're in day 2 right now. It feels chaotic in there. I'm curious, weeks out, how are people using this platform? Are people posting a lot of photos there? Are people posting, downloaded TikToks in there, or is it really text-based? Is it feeling really like status updatey? And I think the proof is going to be in how people end up actually using this platform and not just how they're using it on day 2.
So Rachel, are you telling your clients to jump in now and experiment and sort of stake out their space? Or are you telling them to wait because there's so many now different platforms that you could be posting on? Is this one at 70 million, or maybe it'll be 80 by the end of the show? Is it worth getting into now?
Look, normally with a new platform, I say sit back, wait, grab your handle, and just see what happens. This one, and I think this is how I know there was a shift, I was like, let's get in there. Meta not leaked it, but, announced it to a few brands. So as soon as you logged on, you saw that there was Netflix.
I can't even tell you what those other services are. I can't, literally.
Was already in there. Complex was already in there. There were brands really actively participating, and it almost felt like as a brand, you didn't have that time to wait. You had to get in there. You had to involve yourself. And so that's the first time I've really seen that in a long time with the new platform where brands really just jumped right in and we're having a lot of fun in there.
To be quite frank, that's the first time ever. We've never actually seen that, where even brands are like, crap, we gotta get on this right away. Never seen that. Never saw that with TikTok. Snapchat, never saw that with Facebook, never saw that with Instagram, never saw it with any of those services. This is the first one because it is so clear it's going to be massive, right? That everybody's like, yeah, we're jumping on this and we're getting on it right away, right? Rather than kind of waiting on this whole dealio. And that's very, very different than anything we've ever seen in history, which goes to just kind of the scale and the scope that this thing's kind of on, the trajectory it's on over time, okay? All right, next one up here, we want to listen to Meta's analyst here, Mark Mahaney, on what he has to say around Threads.
More about Amazon, potential AI upside. Joining us is Evercore ISI Head of Internet Research, Mark Mahaney. Mark, happy Friday. So have investors perhaps been sleeping on Amazon's AI capabilities?
And by the way, one last thing here. Meta could make an absolute fortune off Threads over time. And you know what I'm thinking about? If you think about Instagram, right? All you have to really go off of for advertising, for the most part, is kind of what accounts people follow, pictures, videos, things like that. I think the data Meta's going to have from like word choice and things like that is going to be much better for advertisers because you're going to be able to know specific posts that people like around certain words that are used inside that post, right? Which is a little different than Instagram. Like obviously with Instagram people do kind of captions, but like that's like the afterthought. Like the video or the picture is like always the thing that people care about when they post on Instagram. So I think there's a way that they'll be able to monetize and get very high CPMs over time with Threads. Even if Threads never becomes a billion-plus user platform, which we'll see if it does, right? Let's say Threads becomes like a 500 million type platform. I think there's still a way that Meta could make an absolute fortune from that platform over time because I think the ads that could be placed would be much higher CPMs than, let's say, traditionally on Instagram or some other socials that are more just photo-based or video-based. So that's kind of my thoughts around Threads there. We'll see, obviously, what happens over time, but, and I don't think Twitter's ever really monetized in the right way. I think Twitter's just always been a mess. Let's just call it what it is. It's always been a dang mess. I mean, Elon Musk is trying to fix the leaky engine there, or we can call it the leaky ship, okay? But nonetheless, Twitter's always been a mess. But the more I look at it, the more I'm like, dang, advertisers would be potentially willing to pay quite a bit of money for certain terms that people are using or liking, and running ads against those.
Yes, they have been. And the question is whether they will wake up from the nap. There's a good reason to have the nap, by the way. If you ask most people in the industry, they'll tell you that the AI solutions, the leader appears to be Azure right now. Now, that can change, and that's both a perception that needs to change, but also a solution set that needs to improve and to change too. I think Amazon can do that. I also think there's going to be enough of these these generative AI apps and solutions. I mean, we're just starting, John, to see these come out now. But as you see more of these solutions come out, Booking.com announced something 2 weeks ago. Expedia did previously. There's AI DJ on Spotify, My AI on Snapchat. Even in the small space that I look at, we're just starting to see the rollout of these. And where are they going to occur? Where's the cloud compute going to occur? Where's the cloud storage going to occur? A lot of that's almost certainly going to be there on AWS. So a year from now, AWS should be able to show these accelerating generative AI-driven growth rates for AWS. And if that happens, the stock's higher, the revenue growth is faster.
Yeah, I think, my personal opinion is AWS is the most direct beneficiary from AI that people aren't even looking at, just to be quite frank. I don't think they're taking it nearly serious enough. And I think they'll learn to take it a little more serious when they really start to see the numbers start to fly in toward the end of this year and especially in 2024.
I guess, Mark, first of all, Andy Jassy made the case here on Overtime yesterday that, yes, they do have the capabilities. They just haven't been waving their hands about it. But is it clear yet where the additional profit growth is going to be for AI in the cloud? Is it going to be in having industry-specific models? Is it going to be in having the ability to very quickly train those models? That doesn't seem clear for investors quite yet.
No, I don't think it is clear, and it's going to take a while for it to play out. Our guess here is that OpenAI is probably not going to run the table in terms of large language models. If that's true, and if large language models get commoditized, that's great for all cloud vendors. I find it really hard to believe that all cloud vendors, Azure, AWS, and Google Cloud, are not going to benefit from what is at the margin.
Yeah, we'll see if OpenAI is even relevant in 3, 5, 7 years. The more I've kind of seen experiments done with the product, the more I'm like, the product's not very good, just to be quite frank. I know people's expectations are really low, but the product's not very good. When you know a great product, when it is just like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. Like, you do everything on it, and just like Google search is a good example. Like, you use Google search right from the go. It was like, oh my gosh, this is freaking amazing. YouTube's a good example, right? ChatGPT, I mean, you can use that for so many different things and just realize this is garbage. Like, there's so many different things you can ask it that it's just like, it's not there. And it gives you an answer, and the answer is not even close to being accurate, or it gives you an incomplete answer. Just a lot of things that I'm just like, the technology was way overhyped. It's probably one of the most overhyped products I've seen launched as long as I've been paying attention to tech for the past 15 years, folks. And so great products, you just like, oh my gosh, this thing's not gonna, ChatGPT is not it. Anybody that's really tried it for a lot, I mean, if you're not very intelligent and you need, like, you're a realtor who needs, like, oh crap, I don't know how to, like, write a description for Zillow, ChatGPT can do that for you, okay? And you might need, like, some mental help if you can't do that, okay? You can't accomplish that. You should probably give up your job being a realtor. So it can do simple tasks like that, but the more you get into some of these complex things, you're like, oh my gosh, like, this thing's not even remotely close. At the end of the day, it feels like a super, super beta product. The more you need it to actually do really high level stuff. It's like, this is not it. Anybody can do high level calculations. Any computer can do that. It's nothing new. It's been, those have been doing that for 20, 30 years. So I can tell you, ChatGPT, the most overhyped product that I've seen, I think something's going to come along that's going to be far better than it. Or they're going to need to get things massively better because it's not it right now, okay? A lot of people are so excited about it, and the more you experiment with it, the more they're like, oh gosh, this is not that good at all.
Just greater need for compute power, greater need for storage. Generative AI requires, and the AI deployments that we're seeing are more computationally complex, and they can't be run, or they won't be run on-prem. They're going to be run in the cloud. So that should benefit AWS. And I don't think that's reflected in the stock, but let's see it. Let's see it in.
The original Windows, like Windows 95 and whatnot, maybe dating myself here a little bit, but, like Windows 95, Windows 98, like you just got it. It was just like, oh my gosh, this product's so amazing. Like the iPhone, the iPad, you just tried those products and it's like, oh my gosh, like this is freaking amazing.
We want to see acceleration.
A lot of these different social medias that Meta has, it's like, dang, this is just freaking awesome. Amazon, just awesome. AWS, just awesome. And then you use ChatGPT and you're like, damn, not awesome.
AWS growth in the back half of the year and into next year. And I think AI is going to be one of those drivers. If 12 months from now we're not saying that, then Amazon stock is going to be right where it is today. But my guess is that 12 months from now, we're going to see much faster growth rates out of AWS. And one of the factors is going to be this continued rollout of more and more AI deployments, and AWS should benefit from that.
Yeah, Mark, one of the other things that Jesse talked about with John yesterday was the fact that
a lot of the early internet companies weren't even relevant 5 years later. And if we rattled off a lot of the most popular internet companies from its first year or two or a few years of the internet being around, you guys, most of you would not even know any of the names. I would be like this company, that company. You'd be like, what, who, what? They all became irrelevant over time. They either went under or they got bought out by other companies that expanded into much better product areas and whatnot, and just found all of the lapses those products had. And so there's definitely a potential here with AI that's going to happen as well, where some of the early services just aren't even relevant 5 years from now, 3 years from now, 2 years from now, 7 years from now. And it'll just be like the people that were in this time period, will remember the names, oh yeah, I remember oh, that was the biggest thing for a month. And then it's irrelevant after that for a while, right? And so we'll see what happens, but yeah.
They're investing in and looking at applications around AI across all of Amazon's businesses. And it sort of speaks to this idea of sum of the parts and whether Amazon is greater than the sum of its parts. And I wonder how you think about that flywheel when you do value a company like this.
So, there is some of the parts way to approach Amazon. I've sort of used it on and off at times. You do it in part because you believe that there may be a spin-off opportunity. I don't think we're going to see a spin-off at Amazon. So I just think if you put together the assets, you're going to see improved free cash flow over the next couple of years. Look, the reason I like Amazon, we made it one of our top picks a couple of months ago, was that we have this triple trough thesis. I look at Amazon and I look at a stock that I think is close to a trough multiple, close to trough operating margins, and close to trough revenue growth. And if we're right on that, these things move together. If the revenue growth reaccelerates, if the margins come off, and that's more on the retail side than on AWS, but if the margins come off the bottom and start rising higher, fundamentally expanding margins and accelerating revenue growth beget higher multiples. And Amazon's multiple is still well off the pre-COVID multiple that it had, of call it 18, 19, 20 times EBITDA.
Yeah, Andy Jassy put it really, really well recently, and this is just one reason I'm insanely excited about Amazon stock for the long term and why it's one of my favorite stocks I've been buying, for the past 6 to 9 months. He said this, okay? He said 90% plus of commerce is still done in physical retail locations, right? And 90% of basically company spend when it comes to kind of IT and whatnot is on premise for kind of servers and all the compute that's needed around that, right? And he says, do you think that's going to flip over the next, 10, 20, 30 years? My opinion is it will, right? Eventually, we're going to have a day when e-commerce is far bigger than the amount of transactions that are going through in physical retail locations. And it's going to be an immense amount more in terms of percent, right? And you think about today, how big e-commerce is, and yet still a super small percentage of actual transactions going through are actually going on in physical retail locations, right? So that's going to flip over time. And then in terms of move into products like AWS in the cloud, that's going to flip over time for companies. And so when you look at it from both those vectors, the more you start to realize Amazon's still an early days growth story. And I know it's hard to imagine it because Amazon's so big now, $1 trillion plus company, right? And all those sorts of things. But the more you kind of dive down, the more you realize, gosh, this is actually still very early days in Amazon, and very early days for the profitability story around Amazon, right? So, those are just some factors to kind of keep in the back of your mind that I think are valuable if you're trying to assess Amazon stock and whether it's a stock you ever want to own or not own.
14 times now. So there's plenty of space between here and there. Fundamentals inflect up, stock inflects up.
All right. I do want to get your thoughts on Meta, given the fact that it did launch this so-called Twitter killer, and that it seems to be crushing it in the first couple of days in terms of downloads and adoption with Threads. Stock's up 140% this year. How meaningful is this to the company, and do you buy?
I'm still a buyer. It's still our top pick, although we're starting maybe to edge off it. Amazon, the risk reward now maybe starting to be a little bit more constructive than it is on Meta. But Morgan.
No, unless you're somebody like myself that already has a massive Meta position, you need to diversify more, and so you're adding Amazon, right? But I'll be honest, if I did not have a position in Meta or Amazon, the easier buy is Meta stock. The only reason I'm buying personally Amazon stock over Meta right now is strictly because I have so much dang money in Meta already, right? $500,000 alone in the public account. Never mind, Amazon in the public account, I have maybe $130,000 or something like that, right? So I need to build my position in Amazon a lot bigger. That's the only reason I'm doing it. But if I didn't have positions in either stock, Meta's the buy over Amazon. I'm just going to be honest. Like, you're getting the valuation at a far, we're talking about 3x cheaper. And you're talking about growth that could be somewhat similar. Amazon probably, if I had to guess, over the next 10 years, Amazon's going to grow their EPS faster than Meta. But I believe over the next at least couple of years, I think they can actually be kind of neck and neck in terms of actually earnings per share growth. So, look at it from those factors. And I will say, actually, Meta's a better buy than Amazon right now if you didn't have money in either one.
I hear you on 140% year to date. I'll also respond to that by saying it's trading at, 17 times GAAP earnings. So it's not expensive. I think it's still the cheapest of the high quality tech platforms that's out there. And then I'm really intrigued by this Threads. I don't know if it's really going to be a Twitter killer. It's just that this is kind of what I call an easy extension of the platform model. So you take your Instagram users and you give them a Threads opportunity. Whether we're really going to turn to Threads to break, to see the latest, cuts and takes on the jobs numbers or on AI deployments.
Okay, new rule, okay? We can't just call things something killer when that thing's not even like an impressive thing, okay? If you want to call it something like an iPhone killer or a Facebook killer or Instagram killer, then you can do that, or Amazon killer. You know why? Because those things are actually super successful. Twitter's not a super successful thing. Elon Musk paid $44 billion for that, and he was trying to get out of that deal any way possible, right? Elon Musk was like trying to get out of that deal any way possible. He's like, this crap is not worth $44 billion. Like, what have I done here, right? He might have been willing to pay $20 billion, $25 billion. So the bottom line is Twitter has been around a long, long time. It's not a success. It's, a platform that if you're going to put it against peers, it's a joke, okay? If you want to compare it against average businesses, sure, it's great, right? If you're worth $20 billion or $30 billion or $40 billion, it's amazing. But compare them to their peers, I mean, they're just a joke, right? And so, I think it's almost disrespectful to even try to put this thing in the Twitter killer category, because I'm like, Twitter's not an impressive thing. It's not impressive to take down Twitter or build something bigger than Twitter. They've been stuck at 300 million users, something like that, for a long flipping flapjacking time.
Am I going to really watch people who I think are really influential in these top debates?
Twitter's a platform that has been infested with bots over time. It's been infested with, let's call it very one-sided political views and those sorts of things, and certain folks that were limited and not limited. And you say, well, maybe Elon Musk is trying to fix that. Maybe, who knows? But the bottom line is that platform is a very dark history. And, I don't know about all that, okay? And once you kind of have that DNA, it's very hard to get rid of that DNA as an organization. And, if, let's say, very negative things were posted about Elon Musk, would those posts be limited? I don't know. You never really know as far as all that stuff goes. So bottom line is, man, Twitter's not it, man. I've never been a fan of Twitter. I'm a fan of some people that post on Twitter because they post some good stuff. But the platform itself, I've never been a fan of Twitter, man. I've never looked at that as that's such an impressive thing. No.
All of them on Threads. I don't know. I probably won't. Probably stick with Twitter for that. But there's no downside to Meta for doing something like this. And, this is advertising-based monetization. Meta's very good at that. and they're probably a heck of a lot better at it than Twitter ever was. So, I don't see why this couldn't be a couple of billion in incremental revenue. That's not 10%, but it's a couple of, 4 or 5% incremental revenue without all of that investment that's required for things like the metaverse. So to me, it's an easy extension. It's a reason to be bullish on. Okay. It's not the reason, but it's a small reason to be bullish on Meta.
Yeah, I mean, long term, I think if Threads is really the success we think it can be, right? 500 million users, 1 billion users. I mean, then you're talking about this company could be doing tens of billions of dollars of revenue a year just from the Threads platform alone. And we know Meta has the connections with every advertiser you ever want a connection with. We know they're the best at rolling ads out whenever they need to in the best way possible and testing things, especially through AI now, right? On what's working, what's not working. So, I mean, whenever they want to turn on that monetization engine, I mean, that's there for them, right? Right now, they're just focused around the user, making sure people actually like the platform. They use the platform, they come on, they continue to use the platform and things like that. But when they're ready, believe me, the scale of revenue will happen quickly and it'll happen in a pretty darn epic way. So appreciate everybody joining me as always, folks. A little longer video than expected. Thanks so much. Thanks for being subscribed, folks. 30,000 plus subscribers now at this point in time. Holy smokers, that ain't no dang jokers. Much love and have a great day. Oh, by the way, if you want to follow me on other social medias, check out the description area. You can follow me on Instagram. Oh, you can follow me on Threads. I got 5,000 followers on Threads. I'm famous, man. Peace.